So Anthony, how have you been, mate? Okay?
Yeah, good mate. Yeah, good you.
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad, thank you. So before we get stuck into your rugby story, where was home for you and
Uh,
who lived at
uh,
home with you?
Newton. I'm from Newton. An only child, just me, mum, and my dad.
Right.
So Newton was home until I moved out at 19. I went to Haydock in St Helens.
Okay, mate. So how was it being an only child? Because where does that competitiveness come from then? Where does that develop?
Do you know what, mate? My mum and dad are the most competitive people you ever met. Like
Right.
they do not argue, but they're competitive about everything. But I don't see myself as that competitive, other than obviously, like playing like on a match day. I'm that
Yeah.
person. I just lose for an easy life at home. With kids and stuff, I just
Yeah.
lose. But my mum and dad are so competitive, it's untrue. And I think because they're so competitive, I'm kind of like, I'm not that bothered.
Yeah, leave him to it, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did rugby become part of your life, Anthony? Where was it?
So I spent a lot of time at my granddad's as a kid, like on a weekend.
Yeah.
And my granddad remarried, and he had like another son who's only about, I say, I'm like what 7 or 8 years older than me, and he used to play for Woolston. Now, my dad was a professional footballer, but for some reason, I just wanted to play rugby. I used to go rugby at my granddad's all weekend, and Mike had a training on a Saturday, so I'd go there. Then he'd play for Woolston on a Sunday. So I was like, I want to play for Woolston. I want to play for Woolston in Warrington. So that's what I wanted to do. Because I enjoyed
Right.
that. But I've got two left feet, me mate. So football's not for me.
Yeah. So what do you remember how it used to be as a kid, mate? Do you remember any of them early sessions and how a match
Yeah,
day used to look for you?
I played the year above, so as soon as you're six, you can play, can't you? So I went
Yeah.
down to Wolston as soon as I was six, but I was probably a year too early, but they just let me play for them, and I played at Wolston from six till probably about 10 or 11. I don't remember much other than where training was, and we weren't that good, to be honest. But other than that, mate, no, I just remember going every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Right. Just like the good old days, mate. That's what it
Yeah,
was, wasn't it?
yeah.
Right. So how did the like school? Did your school play rugby or was it a football school?
No, nothing. I went to school in Newton, but you wouldn't believe it looking at it, but I was a national swimmer.
Right.
So I swam like in Warrington, um, and rugby was like my second hobby as such.
Okay.
So in school, like in primary school, we didn't do any, no like after school sports like it is now. Like my kids in school and they're every day they're after school, but no, like we did nothing. So I was just swimming, and then Tuesday, Thursday was at rugby.
How could I remember the girl from our school was a good swimmer. It was mega competitive in it, mate. So
Yeah.
how did you get into that and how did you find it if it was that competitive? Because you laid back.
Do you know what, mate? I used to always that you go swimming lessons as a kid, and I just stayed at
Yeah,
it. I used to go
yeah,
swimming lessons in Warrington, and I was just stayed at it. So like you move up the groups, don't you? And then
yeah.
I just transitioned into this like I don't know what they were called, but it used to be at Warrington Baths. I used to swim there, and then I got to a point where I was doing 24 hours a week in a pool. Um, but once I got to high school, I hated it. I got to that 14, that 14, 15, and I was like, all my mates were playing out or doing something else, and I was like in swimming 5 till 7 and 4 till 6 on a night, and I just fell out of love of it. But it was my mum and dad's social life, because it's so busy.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was,
yeah.
so like it was hard to kind of step away from swimming because of my parents. But I just hated it. You tell me go swimming now, I'll tell you where to go. I always, well, because I got pretty decent. I got pretty decent at
Yeah.
swimming. I had to quit playing rugby.
I was gonna say there'd have been a time you'd have unfortunately had to choose, wouldn't there?
Yeah, and because
Yeah,
I was a
yeah,
very, very good swimmer, like I was in the national squad, I had to quit swimming.
yeah.
I had to quit rugby, sorry. So I quit rugby
Right.
probably year six and only went back at
Yeah.
like year nine, year 10.
Okay. Of
Um, but it's that whole thing. You tell a teenager not to do something, they want to do it, don't they?
course they do,
So
mate. Yeah.
I had to quit rugby, but I loved rugby, but I was good at swimming.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
had to quit, but I always wanted to go back. And eventually, I think mum and dad got sick of coming in my room at 4:30 in the morning and me telling them where to go, like, fig off, I don't want to go. I think they
Yeah.
actually listened at one point and went, he doesn't actually want to do this.
Yeah. No, because it's tough decision for the kid, isn't it, mate? And like we say in year six, so that's 10, 11, mate. That's town team era
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
I think I'm a bit older than you, so I'm 33.
32 me now, yeah.
Right. So it had still been there, mate, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
how difficult was it to step away from representative stuff to go and do rep stuff in a sport you weren't overly keen on?
Because I wasn't brought up with understanding town teams and stuff like that in rugby. I used to turn up to rugby, train, play, go home. You know what I mean? I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if my dad were told and kept it away from me. I don't know. I didn't know much about it until, like you say, year 7, year 8, year 9. I played rugby for high school, and they were putting me forward because obviously I weren't affiliated when I was in year 7. I never played rugby for anybody, but
Yeah.
you could get nominated through school, couldn't you? So school
Yeah.
were nominating me for Warrington, but I never went because obviously
Yeah.
swimming was so big. Like I couldn't. I literally did every single day bar a Sunday in a pool, so I couldn't have done it
Right.
anyway. It wasn't something I even looked at. I just enjoyed rugby. I used to go watching Warrington on a Friday night after swimming. I was a Warrington
Yeah.
fan going to Wolverhampton High School, so I was like, didn't know anything really about your town teams. I was just I like rugby, but I have to swim unfortunately.
I was transitioning to high school for you then, mate, because it's a very it's an individual sport and it's swimming.
Yeah, and I didn't know anyone in my high school.
Right.
So I went to school in primary school in Newton, and all my friends had went to schools in Newton. But because of how my swimming fell, um, I went swimming 5 till 7 in the morning in Warrington. But then at
Yeah.
4 till 6, I was at Woolston Leisure Centre, so it was next to the school. So it made sense for me to go to that high school because then my dad could take me to school in the morning, and then they'd finish work at 5 o'clock, and I only finished swimming at 6, so they could pick me up from swimming at 6. So I'm quite a confident and loud lad, and I have been since 4 or 5 years of age. So, and even though I didn't know anybody in the high school, it wasn't too bad because my personality is quite like, you know what I mean. You make mates, and
Yeah.
you kind of go find acceptance somewhere. So, although it does sound daunting, going to high school not knowing anybody, but to be honest, I wasn't too bad. I was all right, to be fair.
Yeah. Right. And you said you were playing a bit of rugby at school, mate, weren't you? Even though at this time the swimming's
Yeah.
quite dominant. What was the standard of rugby like at school?
Well, I was the only one in, like, you wouldn't think it, but in my high school, in my year, who
Yeah.
like played any kind of rugby. So my year 7 team was pretty poor, but I got kind of like befriended some lads in year 9 who all played rugby, and because I was quite a big lad and I'd just
Yeah.
joined in anyway, I ended up playing for the year 9 team. So I ended up playing 2 years above. I don't think I was supposed to, but
Yeah.
yourself, school rugby, it's kind of like you have 4 or 5 lads, and then you're going round if you got boots with you, you're playing for the school. You know what I mean? It's not like
Not a
football as such.
striker on
Where,
the wing and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's how it
Yeah.
was, and that's how it was from year 7 to year 11 in school
Right.
rugby. We weren't a big rugby school, to be fair. It was just come play.
Yeah. Yeah. Was the both called walks or was it just rugby league?
Just rugby league. I've never played union in my
Right.
life.
No. And would you have been interested at any point?
If I knew the financial difference.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, like if I
Yeah.
knew the difference in the money when I was a kid and stuff like that, the
Yeah.
longevity of the career and stuff, yeah. But
Yeah.
not like
No, that's fair enough.
not like if I was reliving my life, I probably would have played rugby union realistically now,
Yeah. Yeah.
just because of the way the game's going.
Right, mate. And at what point did swimming and rugby become like one or the other?
So, like I said, I was at Woolston, playing a
Yeah.
year above myself, and then went to Rylands because Rylands were a pretty good team, my age group. So I
Yeah.
got down to my own age, but then like I said, I got selected in the national squad swimming, and they actually basically made like a decision where I couldn't fit it in. So I reckon about year 6, I probably finished playing swimming. I
Yeah.
was playing the odd, finished rugby.
Rugby.
I was playing
Yeah.
the odd little game for Newton Storm, like if I didn't have a swimming event because I didn't have to train,
Yeah.
just go and play for them. But When I got to year 10, I was like, I hate swimming. I know, like I was good at it, and people, but I just hated it. I just wanted to play rugby. I think I preferred the team sport rather than individual.
Yeah.
I've never been nervous for rugby, but I used to make myself sick. I was that nervous for swimming, and I
Right.
think, and I think that's because you've got people with you at rugby. So I used to put
Yeah.
so much pressure on myself for swimming, and you could win a gold medal like in an event, and people would be buzzing, and I was pissed off because I was slower than last time I did it, and there was so much
Yeah.
pressure on getting these times, and I just didn't like it. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to play rugby, and I had a mate eventually at school. For some reason, he went Wolston High School, but he played for Goulburn.
Right.
Um, and he said, "Oh, why don't you just come down to us and play at Goulburn?" And eventually, it must have been my mum and dad like 3 or 4 times a week. So I want to play rugby. I want to play rugby. And because I lived in Newton, Goulburn's only 5 minutes down the road.
Right.
So I ended up going to end up eventually like they must like we sat down and said, listen, we're gonna like basically let you quit swimming as such. It sounds bad, but
Yeah.
like let you jack it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was a big decision for mum and dad because like I said that was their social life.
Yeah.
Um and I went and joined Goulburn and then never looked back.
Yeah. No, and what? So, like you mentioned the nerves and that about the swimming, and like even if you were winning medals and that at the times with what people looked at and yourself, mate, didn't you? You
Yeah.
just said that. Did was there a sort of freedom back at rugby then, mate? And had the game changed at all?
Well, when I finished as a kid, there was no scrums or kicking, so I had to actually, and we haven't had no positions. And then when I went back to Goulburn, you had
Yeah.
to find your positions. Actually,
Shape and things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that sort of thing, and it was just I was happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was, I went from having no time whatsoever, where I was like up in the morning swimming, school, swimming, home. I was that tired, I was going to bed because I was up again at 4:30.
Yeah.
I went from that to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday or Sunday
Yeah.
playing. I'm not saying like I didn't have a life, but I had free time and you know what I mean, I was
Yeah.
just happy. I was just happier in myself. So yeah,
There's
it
a
was
bit
just
where you said Anthony won it. It weren't as regimented, mate, was he? You were
yeah,
timed for everything, weren't you?
that's it, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So before we move on, were you a predator man or a night man?
Predator man, but I'm a night man
Yeah.
now.
Well, they've just brought the Preds back out, mate. You've still got a few years yet, haven't
I've
you?
got two lads upstairs wanting them now.
Bet they do it 350 quid, don't it?
um,
Right, mate. So when did you take rugby serious when you went back, or did it take someone to approach your mum and dad and have a chat with them for you to
yes,
grasp
I
it?
did. I just had fun. I just
Yeah,
had fun, and like I said, I missed out on the Warrington Town team, because I I got nominated for school, but didn't know anything about it, and I knew a lot of the Rylands lads
yeah,
eventually went on it, but I didn't. Do you know what I mean? I didn't go on any of it, and then I was just playing for Goulburn and just having fun, and they put me forward for Wigan because Wigan and Lee, being in Goulburn,
yeah,
and I ended up getting through to I don't know how it works now or how it did. So I know it works now, but back then like Lee picked a team and then Wigan picked a team and then they played against each other and made Wigan and Lee service area.
yeah,
And I got in that Lee team. Um but I never made the Wigan and Lee one, but I wasn't bothered because I all these lads had scholarships and stuff like that, but I was like a brand new player, not really understanding anything. So I was
yeah,
just playing for fun. Um we weren't in the top league, I think it was in the league below, like second league. Um
yeah,
so I was just playing for fun and enjoyed it. And then in like the second year back playing, Derek Trainer from Saints come watching someone like we were playing against Pilks and he was watching some lads from Saints and
yeah,
they basically must have clocked me and spoke to the coach. And then when they found out I lived in Newton, they went, "Oh no, that's St Helens. You've got to play for St Helens Town team. You can't go play for Warrington or Wigan and leave. They play at goal, but you have to play for St Helens." And basically that's where it started. To be honest, I went to St Helens Town team. Then from there,
yeah. So do you know how not the rejection, mate, but you've made the lead team, but not the combined.
yeah,
How did you take that initially?
I didn't think anything of it
Yeah, right.
because I was literally so new back playing. I didn't
Yeah,
understand scholarships. I didn't understand because my Goulburn team only had one scholar on it at the time. Um,
right.
and I didn't. it was just fun. I was playing rugby for fun with my mates. I didn't even think about a career in rugby or anything like that, mate. I just played, had a laugh on a Sunday, and went home.
Right.
Um, and then obviously eventually got took at Saints. So the rejection, I just took it in my stride, thinking, well, I didn't know anything. It wasn't a big thing to me because I didn't know what it was,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah. It's probably a blessing, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
lads used to get worked up, didn't they? Like I said, I'd
Yeah.
understand it from the swimming side of it when I used to get worked up, but I said I've never ever in my life been nervous for the game of rugby, and I don't know why. I wish I did
Yeah.
in some ways. I do wish I
Yeah.
did, or do, but I don't.
Yeah.
Um, but in the other side, I'm glad because I used to make myself ill when I was swimming with nerves.
Yeah. Maybe it's a
But yeah,
psychological lesson, mate, in it that
yeah,
you took without knowing it. Yeah.
yeah.
So how was school for you, mate? How did you treat high school? Was you into school or was it more social?
Bit of both. I got my grades I
Yeah.
needed to get. I enjoyed
Right.
school. Like even when I finished swimming, I didn't want to go back to a school on like in Newton. I loved it at Woolston. You know, I had friends there, and I had to get two buses home every night, but I weren't bothered because I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed the social side with my mates, and I also school was school. You know what I mean? I wasn't a great student. I wasn't a bad student. You know, I was kicked out the odd lesson I didn't like for being cheeky and
Yeah.
gobby, but then lessons I liked I did well in. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
got me five A to C's as it was to get into college, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Got what I needed to get out of school. I said, you look back now, and I tell my oldest lad's in year 11, and I say it's the best time of your life. You
Right.
don't realise,
Yeah.
you
You
know,
don't.
like
Everyone tells you that as well, don't they?
yeah,
But you think, oh,
yeah,
behave. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so I enjoyed school. You know, I can't. The
Yeah.
school's not there anymore. When I left in year 11, no year sevens come in. They just filtered everybody out and
Okay.
closed the school. But I loved it.
Yeah. Right. And what was the idea for when you left school, mate? Because obviously, it's like a career in rugby is not even in the peripheral at this point, is it?
No, I only got a scholarship in year 11. It's like in school, so I wanted
Yeah.
to be a PE teacher. You know, I think
Right.
most sporty lad wants to be a PE teacher if they're not going to make it in sport. And I went to Priestley College in Warrington. It said I wanted to be a PE teacher, but obviously I ended up going to uni and stuff, but paths go different, don't they?
Yeah, I know, mate. So how was it combining rugby and further education? Was Saint very
Just
for that?
yeah, I can't like
Yeah.
so I got a scholarship in year 11.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I can't went, oh, I'm actually all right at this rugby. So I actually did the town team at Saints, got a scholarship from the town team
Yeah.
when I was in year 11, signed at Blackbrook, because obviously everyone in the town team was saying, you know, playing St. Helens, come to us at Brook, come to us at Brook. My
Yeah.
Goulburn team still, like, we went into the Prem, but then one lad left to join Inley, one lad left to join Wigan and do the best team. And we went down a couple of leagues, and I was like, oh, I want to play in the Prem with Blackbrook. So I
Yeah.
did that and stayed at Saints. Went to Priestley College, and I got put in a class where 12 of the class had signed under academy at Warrington. So there was
Right.
12 lads in my class who were on academy at Warrington. And then obviously I ended up getting an academy deal at Saints.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't mind. I drove pretty quick. So as soon as when you start college, you're 17.
Yeah.
I passed my driving test pretty quick, so I did. It worked quite well. So I'd go to college and I got myself a little car and drove straight to training.
Yeah.
And I quite liked the fact that I wasn't at Warrington. All my mates were at Warrington, but I was at Saints because you're just a bit different, isn't it? You know, if I was with the lads
Yeah.
if I went to college in St Helens with lads from rugby, or if I went to play for Warrington with the lads from college, I just think I just like would have dwindled in. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
having that separation was quite good, where you could switch off from rugby at college and switch off from college at rugby. You work with the same people, you know. So yeah, and Saints were great. I can't. When I went to uni, um, when lads usually sign full time at 18, I never got a first team deal, and Saints put me on a sports scholarship at John Moores. So Saints pushed me to get a scholarship at John Moores, and I got a sports scholarship there, and I was reserves at Saints, but I was at uni. And then I played that well for Saints reserves. I ended up getting a first team deal, but Saints still supported me uni. So I was kind of like hybrid, where Monday I was at uni, Tuesday was at Saints, Wednesday was at uni, Thursday was at Saints, Friday was at Saints, and then they supported each other.
Yeah. So when you go in for that chat, because the transition from scholar to academy is big, in it, mate. Whether people admit
Yeah,
it or not, it is, in it, especially like in the pack and stuff. Even though you've been used to playing older than yourself virtually all your rugby,
yeah,
because you've done a bit before the swimming, mate. You come back and you're mixing about and that you're more
yeah.
than capable. How was that transition? How was the negotiations to get an academy deal? Because you're
I
still
never,
relatively new, aren't you?
yeah. So Saints did it a bit different. So they sign all these lads at 16. They can still play for their amateur teams, and I never signed.
Yeah,
And Saints did something called a foundation, where it was like under 16s, but no academy players. So
yeah,
Saints did one, Cumbria did one, London did one. But I know like Warrington didn't, Wigan didn't, Widnes didn't. So, but they basically wait for late developers. So
yeah,
Saints only signed, I think it was six lads my age group, and then they signed three others from that under 16s. So I only went into the academy like at the back end of the first year, if that makes sense.
yeah,
So, but at that point, I was a bit obviously I was gutted because you get dangled this carrot of your scholarship under 16. Or I got a scholarship or under 18s deal, and that was the only time where I was gone like I didn't get it and I was pissed off.
yeah,
But I still made think was I oh I, my mum and dad were very much pushing my education. They were like, and not many people make it, do they? So it's like,
no,
you need something to fall back on. You need something to fall back on, and so that's why when I went to the college and stuff like that, I still thought PE teacher, and I think because I pushed that, I was pushed with that education as such. Rugby become that hobby again that I eventually just did all right outright. I got picked because it wasn't my everything. I was peed off. I didn't get signed at 16, but 6 months later, I ended up signing anyway. But I still fell back on that education. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it was all right.
Everything happens for a reason, mate, doesn't it? It does in the
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So do you know the back end of the season? Is it? And to be honest, mate, I like that foundation idea because you get a lot of lads slip the net
yeah.
that are more than definitely going to be good enough in 2 or 3 years, aren't they? By the time they're 20, they're more than
Well,
good
how
enough.
many lads? You know yourself. How many? He was best players at 16. Then they don't make it. Best players at
Yeah,
13 don't make it. You get the ones who go under the radar who weren't the biggest kid, weren't the best kid. And the way I look at it is like my swimming. I was pushed to swim so much. By the time I was 14, 15, I was burnt out. I hated it.
yeah.
So like you get these parents now pushing the kids playing rugby, playing rugby, playing rugby. That kid might not like rugby when it's 15, 16, 17. Do
When
you know,
it matters,
that's
essentially.
that's the
Yeah,
way I look at it. Yeah. So
yeah,
um, you know what I mean? So that like teams are pretty good now, these like top clubs because the scholarship system's all changed, hasn't it? But they always leave spaces now for these late developers or the ones that slip the net, like you say.
yeah. I suppose, mate, like that's essentially what League One and Champs opportunity is, isn't it? The hidden gems.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then that's why I get the dual reg, and then I think it costs like the champ and the League One teams as well. Because say they find an Anthony Walker or like a Walmsley, for instance, and
yeah, yeah,
and Chris Hill, they can sort of expose them in them dual reg, and then the next minute, like they take them off him and they don't even get a fee. Like I
yeah,
think
yeah.
if I'm out of turn, I'm sure someone will tell me, but I think the T Ritson deal's a little bit like that, weren't it? It was like a loan, and all of a sudden saying, "Do you know what? We'll keep you."
It was a loan to contract, one it. So it was like a 2 year
Yeah,
deal, but the
basically.
first year it was a loan. Yeah,
Yeah. So I get both points. I definitely do, and I think it's a great chance for like them foundation players that you mentioned. But I think the smaller clubs miss out, don't they? But
I
it's the
I
fact
think
of life.
that that dual reg for me, it's great if you get the player for a decent amount of time
Yeah.
because I've been on both ends of it. I've been that dual reg player coming in.
Mm.
And then I've been that lad who's been missed out for a dual veg player. And for me, it's sound if you get him for a chunk of time. But if it's just someone coming for a week, for me, I think it's a lot of shite.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can say that because you've experienced it, like you said, mate, haven't you?
Yeah,
So you've
yeah,
got like the front row seat for it. But so on that now, we're on it, mate. How is it when you are that kid that's coming in? Is it a frosty environment? Because sometimes, mate, I think you just do a team run, don't you? And that's your
yeah,
session and you play.
yeah. So I'm not dual veg coming. I was lucky, me mate, because I went through all 18s. So it went under 18s, under 20s, and then they scrapped
Yeah,
the 20s or scrapped the 18s or something made a 19s. So I went all the way through, and then I was the first player from Saints to go on dual veg to Whitehaven. He hadn't done it before, so
yeah,
it was me and Eddie Gardner went together. He was coming back from injury, and I was like, it was Nathan Brown at the time, and I was that one who wanted to have a look against men. And
yeah,
we went to Whitehaven, mate, deep in snow, and you get there, and it's eye opening. You know what I mean? Like you've gone from having your ass
yeah,
wiped for in a Super League club
yeah,
to Whitehaven. No disrespect to Whitehaven, but the facilities are, do you know what I mean? Awful.
yeah,
And some lads are frosty. You'll get an halfback or winger and then centre sound with you because you're not taking their position. But a
yeah,
couple of middles are frosty with you. You know what I mean? They're a bit like, "Hey mate, you're all right," but you know them. They don't mean it. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, yeah,
they try and whack you. They might try and whack you a bit in training or something like that to say, you're not getting just because you've got a squad number doesn't mean Super League squad
yeah,
doesn't mean you're better than me. But then the second you play, if you play decent, you're accepted.
yeah.
And I went Whitehaven and I was there for 2 weeks before I played first team. So it served a purpose for me. But then I always went back to Whitehaven when I weren't playing for Saints at the time. And I was like, it was all right then. The times it
Yeah.
doesn't work is when I was at Wakefield and I dual veg to Dewsbury, only played one game. But, so someone's missed out
Pointless, isn't
there.
it? Yeah.
Someone's missed out there for me going for one game. And there's nothing I can do about it. I've got to go and do the best I can
Doing
do.
as you're told. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But you do feel a bit shit, especially when you get a bit older as well. It's different when you're 17, 18, 19. But when you
yeah,
actually like in your 20s, you kind of go, oh, it's a bit shit this.
yeah. I can imagine, mate. So that stage, that pathway you're going through at Saints at this stage, mate. When does the chat get serious regarding a renewal or a release?
I Mine got serious when I got an agent.
Yeah,
So I went full time, and my first year full time, I was on like 9 grand. I was at
right.
uni. I was at uni as well,
Yeah,
and I signed at Saints, and then I got a 2 year deal, 9,000, 12,000, something like that.
yeah,
And I made my debut on £12,000 a year, which you know what I mean. You don't look at money, but you look at it now and you go, thinking hell. Do you know what I mean? I
yeah,
made my debut for Saints, so I got an agent contacted me. I got an agent. And that's when it got serious then because a week of having an agent, I got pulled in to sign a new deal.
right.
Um, and then, then you start talking, I'm not saying big money, you know what I mean? But you start talking a real
Yeah, yeah,
wage, a real
yeah,
wage. And, it's great. You're going from 12 grand to doubling it and tripling it, and it's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is fantastic when you're fit and when you're playing. The problem is if you get injured, which I did in my third year at Saints, I,
right.
s- I snapped my ACL and then I was going into contract year and then I weren't playing. And
Yeah,
that's when it gets serious because I was rushing back from an ACL wanting to play. There was young lads who were on that 12 run that I used to be on, playing
yeah,
first team, and I'm on triple their wage, not playing. And that's when it starts getting serious of stress. Like, you know what I mean? I might have to find a job here. And
yeah,
it was the year that Wakefield was really struggling. Do you remember? I think they were bottom of the league. They'd only won one game all year. And I randomly got a phone call off my agent saying, "Listen, do you want to go on a month's loan to Wakefield?" I hadn't played a game yet. I'd come back from an ACL. I hadn't played a game, but I was that desperate to be playing because I needed a contract. You know what I mean? I took it, and that was the Tuesday night. The Wednesday morning, I was at Wakefield. I'd finished training on the Tuesday. I was at Blackbrook with my kids playing, my oldest kid playing rugby on the Tuesday night. Got that phone call off my agent. Do you want to go to Wakefield on a loan? Yep. Yeah, I'll go for the month. Okay, they expect you in the morning. I turned up to Wakefield and one training session, they changed that loan to a 2 year deal. So I never went back to Saints again then. So
yeah,
and it was crazy, mate, because that was my life. It was your job, your life, you know what I mean? And then to
yeah,
literally in 24 hours, they don't even you nothing to do. So I had to do like do loads of phone calls, just thanking the odd coach and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that's when it becomes real. And it's like, oh, it's a business. This.
I was gonna say that, mate, and obviously you had to witness that pretty young, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
so, but that's when. But I couldn't say no, mate, because
yeah,
I know I can't say I got cut from St. Helens because it was like a decision to go. But I would have got cut at the end of the year if I stayed out and said, "I'll just do the month loan."
yeah,
3 month, 4 months down the line, I'd have been fighting for scraps somewhere.
yeah, yeah. Gotta look
That,
at course, you've got to look after yourself as much as it's about the club. It's about the player, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'd, and that's what I try and tell. Like I've got friends now who are, or friends' sons now who are like 17, 18 of in full time environments, and I'm like, don't wait for them to tell you. You've got to try and like be on their case or look after yourself. And it's hard to tell people that sometimes because I describe it as you're just a conveyor belt, mate. And it sounds awful that, but when you're a fringe player in Super League, you've either got to hit the ground running and become something, or you're just going to get cast aside for the next lad coming through.
yeah,
And so unless you're hungry enough to go, like, I can't sit here and think, oh, I like it at Saints, they're going to keep me. You've got to go and go. If you're going, you've got to be on the ball saying, "Are you going to keep me? Or am I going to go?" And that's the way, like, it's got to be. And it's hard to tell people that, but that's the way it is, really. You know what I mean? Especially at such a club like
yeah,
St.
yeah,
Helens.
yeah. And I've no doubt it's frustrating as well, mate. Like I said, you're still a young man at this point, and you've got to go and have them types of chats. And for what people know, Saints professional is all you've known rugby league
Yeah,
wise.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it must
You know,
have been hard to potentially turn you back.
I didn't know what Wakefield was going to be like. I didn't know.
Yeah,
You know, what I mean, I didn't know I was never going to go back to Saints when I originally agreed to go for that 1 month,
yeah, yeah,
and I only lasted a day before I signed because
yeah,
they said we'll sign you, and basically Saints gave it the green light. And as soon as my agent rang me and said, "Listen, Wakefield decided they want to sign you for I think it was 18 months at first."
yeah,
You know, it's a gamble where you go, "No, I'm going to stay for the month," or I've got. I had my partner at the time was heavily pregnant, and it's like I've got to look after myself and my family.
yeah. Of course you have, mate. Yeah. Plus, it's virtually guaranteed game time because obviously they've come to you, haven't they, mate? So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
thinking, if nothing else, it's a shop window opportunity. No offense to Wakey, but it is. If
No, it
it's
was. It was that.
not more
It was
money
that.
from them, it's a contract from someone else, isn't it?
That's the way I looked at it. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it was a big decision. It was sink or swim. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I kind of floated. I didn't sink. I didn't swim. I floated. But
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that though, mate. Is there? You had it. You give it a go. I've no doubt you
Yeah,
don't regret it. It's like you said, you'd have probably been cut anyway.
yeah. Would have been, yeah,
So,
because I was injured.
so
Yeah,
the ACL injury, mate, is that the first serious injury you'd had?
I had a few. No, I did. I did my syndesmosis on my ankle. Um,
Right.
playing first team for Saints. Um, like I tweaked it against Wakefield, and I should have been out for a month. And at the time, I don't know how, but at the time, Nathan Brown really rated me as a player, was all for me. And we missed a week, and then they basically said it was Good Friday, and they went, "Listen, we need you to play." And I had one of these stupid clauses in my contract. The more games I played, the more money I got the following year. So you
Yeah.
tell a 21-year-old lad, do you want to play on Good Friday against Wigan, or do you want to rest it for another couple of weeks? You play it, don't you?
Yeah, of
Especially if
course you
I
do.
had to wait a certain amount of games to get more money. And then I
Yeah.
completely snapped my ACL, and not my ACL, my syndesmosis, and I was out for 3 months then.
Right.
I come back, but I was out for 3 months. And
Yeah.
then it was the following season I did my ACL, yes. But that was the worst one because, that was like Nathan Brown left. I did it in the semi-final before the grand final in 2014. So
Yeah.
I did it in the semi. So I missed the grand final out of it. And then Nathan Brown left, and then a new coach come out, Kieran Cunningham took over, and I was injured when he took over. And then young
Yeah.
lads were doing well, and I'd never got back in. So
Right.
that was, you know what I mean? That was my first, like, I was injured, but that was my first proper injury where it was the wrong time of the year to get injured and
Yeah.
coaches changed. And, that's why I effectively was out of Saints because I couldn't get on the field.
Yeah. And when it's something as serious as that, mate, what are them first thoughts? What are the chats like with people?
I'd never really seen anyone properly do it until mine. So
Yeah,
we were lucky at Saints. We had Johnny Lomax was coming back from one.
yeah,
So I remember going for a scan with a physio, and they told him, and he come back, and the physio apologised to me. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry about that, mate." Yours is to say, like, but I didn't realise how big of an injury it was. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You've done your ACL, and like, because I've been so, I hadn't seen it in academy level. Like anyone I've been around hadn't done it, so
yeah.
I didn't realize how long the process. Don't realize how long it's short time, 6 months, but it's a long time, isn't it?
It is,
I
mate.
didn't
Yeah,
realize. I didn't realize I'd never play for Saints again.
yeah, yeah. I can't imagine you. Yeah, it's mad
Because
now
I
you've
just
said
thought
it, innit?
I did it on the semi
Yeah,
final. I thought I'll be back in for near season time and I'll get back in the team, and I just never did. So looking back on it now, and people do the ACLs, I think I understand why physios apologise.
yeah,
Because it
right.
can end careers. You don't know how you're ever
Yeah,
going to come back from it. I did my ACL and I think I was 97 kilos. When I come back from the ACL, I was 107, and I've never been able to get anywhere down since. You know what I mean? From that,
yeah,
just because I don't think it was muscle or fat or both or what. Your body just changed over
yeah,
6 months. Puberty probably
yeah.
finished at 21, so everything slows down a bit.
Just
So
everything. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Right. So that first day you turn up at Wakey, mate, and what sort of? I know you said you were outgoing, and I've no doubt you don't struggle to make friends, mate. I'm getting to know you now, and I feel like I've knew you forever, just how
Yeah.
open you are. But how was it going in that new environment with the are strangers? I know who you play against to a degree to say it right to.
Yeah, well, I was lucky when I was
Yeah,
signed at Wakefield. There was a lot of lads from this end, from St Helens and Warrington or Wigan. So
yeah,
I went up day one. There was Matty Ashurst there who I played with at Saints. Stu Howarth there who I played with at Saints. And then there was a couple like Chris Riley from Warrington who I knew. So day two, I was travelling in a full car, so it was all
right,
right. And like you said, because
yeah,
I'm quite like you say, I like having a crack at dressing room and stuff like that. So I kind of fitted in pretty quickly.
yeah,
But this it, it's eye opening, should we say? Because Saints was very professional. I'm not saying Wakey wasn't professional, but it was a total different culture.
right,
Where um, and it probably made me the person I am traveling up there and being how that is. What I mean? Being how Wakefield was at the time, where they had there's no secret there was culture issues at Wakefield. The times I was there, there's three car crashes. Lads were getting arrested and stuff like that. It was in the news. So um, yeah, so it wasn't that daunting as such because I knew people there, and then that was the year where I think we had up to like squad number 49. So like back end of the year, there was like Scott Morse traveling with, there was two cars from St Helens traveling up there. So it
right,
was all right to be fair, but it was just eye opening.
yeah. And what does it do to a team that, mate, when that sort of stuff's going on?
Do you know what I mean? Like that year when I went there, I think I got squad number 37 and I went in the middle of the year. But
Yeah,
there weren't many in the start. There weren't many 1 to 17 there from. So it was like a total new team. Brian Smith come in and he signed in all the
yeah,
players he wanted, and it was just a total different team. And you know, it it was it was million. We ended up in the £1 million game, so you go into work and not knowing if you're gonna have a job at the end of it.
yeah. It's horrible that, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, it
It's
was. It was.
yeah,
There's a good set of lads, but it was. I mean, like it was just. I was all right because I was one of the new ones, but I reckon if I was a lad from Wakefield that year, I
yeah,
bet you'd be pissed off. Like,
yeah. Like your Danny Kermons and people like that, mate. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But do you know when you're around that experience and that, mate, and you're still finding your feet and stuff, is it can you look to them lads Monday to Friday and then in the middle of a game just for that bit of guidance? Is it easy to go up and talk to the likes of Kermo and that? Because I've had
Do you know
Kermo
who the
on and he was so straightforward and sound.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great bloke. But do you know who the best one was for me? Ali Lawatiti.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like he was like the most approachable, best bloke. Like, what I mean? He was coming to the end of his career where you're starting yours as such, and any issues, you could go to him and he'd either seen it, done it, or been through it himself. He was he was good. Like Kermond, Nick Scruton, they were both good lads. Through that sort of stuff. But it was quite the lads at Wakefield, especially year two, they were a good set of tight set of lads. When people say you don't care who you sit with at dinner, and people say it, but half the time they don't mean it.
Yeah.
That was probably one place where, because the club was like going through shite, you know what I mean, not much money, not like say probably not much training kit and stuff like that. We trained at
Yeah.
Featherstone, like a Super League teams train at Championship ground,
Yeah.
but because of things like that, we were quite a tight group. I mean, it was good.
Right. So you probably learned more about the game both sides of the field there than you
Yeah,
would anywhere else, didn't you,
yeah, it was
mate?
eye up. It
Yeah,
was
a
like I
bit of
said
a baptism.
at Saints, you got your ass white for you. I mean,
Yeah.
like, so I turned up at Wakefield day one, and it was a porter cabin for the gym. And then like you put your stuff in the changing rooms, and he goes, right, you've got like some rehab to do. I said, right, where are we doing it? We did it in the changing rooms, and I was like, I just couldn't get my head around things like that. They're just
Yeah.
the facilities were obviously, I think they've improved now, this new stand, but the facilities were so poor.
Something we take for granted that everyone in the top flight can afford the Saints, Wigan, Waddington, whole sort of stuff in it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, I said off air about teams being a different standard to what you think it is. They're
Yeah.
probably another one that was like that.
Right. No, that's fair enough, mate. So how did you look at a loan move, Anthony? Did you see it as a bit of a kick in the face, or did you always
As in, like,
approach it as an opportunity?
the one from Saints to Wakey, it was an opportunity because I was in contract
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um, and then I played all that season at Wakefield, and then first I didn't get a look in at the beginning of so I signed at 18 months. I signed at
Yeah.
18 months there, and got into pre-season. So on the second after the £1 million game, went into pre-season, and I just wasn't. Brian Smith had like he'd gone from like really liking me to thinking I don't want this player in my team. And I was on the phone to my agent going, listen, he's given me the last squad number in the team. I'm not going to play. We used to start at 6 in the morning. So you think what time you have to leave from St. Helens if you're starting at 6 in
Yeah.
the morning at Wakefield? And he weren't. He basically he told me I was a last choice player in his squad. Yeah, they was his words to me.
Yeah.
And now
Right.
look at it now, I think it was a bit of a mind game, but
Yeah.
they was his words to me. So I went for another loan. I said, "Frig this, get me out of Wakefield." And I tried to hunt a loan, and I got a season long loan deal at Widnes in 2016. This would have been, and I went into his office, and he wouldn't let me go. He said, "I need you for a game on Easter Monday, then you can go." Now this is December, and he said he
Yeah.
needed me for Easter Monday. So anyway, he ended up getting sacked, and I ended up playing again. But then
Yeah.
I ended up getting set back end of that year. Then it was Chris Chester, and then he sent me on loan again, and that was a bit of a kick in the teeth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where that was where they're saying, "Listen, go out and play some minutes, get some game time in." And I'm thinking, get some game time. I've been playing.
Mm.
Um, and then the season ended then, and the following year, 2017, I started the first. I think it was 8 or 9 games of the season, and then he said, "Right, I need you only playing like half an hour a game. I need you to go and get 80 minutes under your belt for Dewsbury." So I understood that. I said, "Yeah, no problem with that, mate. I'm only playing half an hour. I'll go and get some game time." Played big minutes for Dewsbury. Come back to Wakefield. They played against Dewsbury in the Challenge Cup. And then
Mm.
he said, right, you need to go to Dewsbury again. And I was like, I don't agree with you. I didn't agree with him sending me to Dewsbury again. That weren't me saying I was too good for Dewsbury, but I was like, I don't want
Yeah.
to go and play Championship. I want to. And it basically, I never played to Wakefield again.
Right.
And I couldn't get in. I didn't want to go to Dewsbury. No disrespect to Dewsbury, but they was bottom of the Championship, getting pumped every week. And that's
Yeah.
when I ended up negotiating. Like with John Kay was the director of football, and I said, "Listen, John, I'm coming up here every day, not playing. I can either try and get myself out now to find a top end championship club, or can I get paid out?" And
Yeah.
I ended up getting a payout then, because again, this is that thing about in contract year you need to be playing,
Yeah.
and he ended up getting a payout, and then
Right.
that's when it all went downhill.
Yeah. So do you think it's mad, isn't it? Because some of these characters you're saying, you think they're pretty direct people, aren't they? You think they'd go,
Yeah.
listen, mate, I'm not really impressed with you at the minute. Um, I'll give you a 4-week trial somewhere else, or find yourself a club so closer to home rather than getting your ass up at that time and prove to us that you can play these minutes instead of going, oh well, I think you need more minutes here, so do that, and then bringing you back, sending you back out. Not,
Yeah, like
it just didn't
I,
sound like they were very direct with you.
I really didn't like Brian Smith. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
but then
yeah,
once I've come away from Brian, I actually respect him more than other coaches because at least he told me he weren't going to play me.
yeah,
Instead of leading you on, like, oh,
yeah, yeah,
you just said, go and do this and go and do that and go and do this. I don't think that's the easy option.
yeah,
The harder conversation to have is to look someone in the eye and say, listen, I don't rate you as a player. But as I get
yeah,
older and take yourself out of that situation, I prefer that because at least you
yeah.
know where you stand. And
Mm,
do you know what I mean? So, like you say, like you'd rather that's where John Kay was good. He wasn't the head coach at Wakefield; he was director of football. But I
yeah,
had him at Wales. I already had him at Wales. So when I spoke to John and said, "Listen,
yeah.
John, what's going on?" He was honest with me and said, "Listen, you're not going to get back in." And
Right.
that's when I kind of said, "Right, well, I think it's time we negotiate some sort of payout for me to leave because
Yeah,
I was leaving my family at home in St Helens, leaving at 5, 6 in the morning, still then, and only getting back at 5, 6 on the night."
yeah.
Um,
Knowing you're not
don't get me
playing as well.
don't
No
get me
end
wrong.
goal there. Yeah,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The money was great for my family, but I was a moody get as well, and I was tired all the time, and I was
yeah,
stressed because I was thinking I'm going to go from a good full time wage to fighting for scraps, either bottom end Super League to half my money or even Championship. So I had to go. Especially after learning it from the Saints, I thought I have to go and hunt for it myself.
yeah. So repping Wales, mate, how did that initially come about? And is it something about declaring eligibilities when you first sign pro and stuff like that?
That's it. My granddad's Welsh, so I'm classed as a quarter Welsh. And it was 2013, and I just I made my debut, and there was a World Cup,
Right.
and I ended up. Yesterday, Howie rang me and said, like, you know, you can play for Wales. And I was in two minds at first, mate, because you see that England Knights. Do you remember that?
Mm.
And I'd had a few chats with it, like, a few tip ups about that because I was playing quite regular. But it was a World Cup, and I thought you might never play in a World Cup again. So, and I did that, and that's probably the best thing I did because I love playing for Wales. I enjoy it's my like that's one of my reasons why I'm still playing now. I enjoy playing for Wales. It's a good laugh. It's a good set of lads. I get on with the staff, and it's you're playing rugby for like it's not like you're playing rugby for fun, but there's no pressure playing for Wales.
Yeah,
It sounds awful, but you're expected to get beat, and you surprise a few along the way.
yeah. And I suppose that you've no to lose if you. It's that
No,
freedom again of like back when you went and signed for
that
Blackbrook and you were at Goulburn and places, mate, and
yeah,
it playing for fun.
that's
Yeah.
it, mate. Yeah, yeah.
So when them law moves have been and gone, mate, and you'd have to go and discuss payout and that, is it as much keeping your face? So have you just got to like stay stern with it, keep trusting the process and yourself?
Yeah, so I had a good agent at the time who
Yeah.
knew how to think, you know what I mean, and he sorted me a deal out elsewhere.
Right.
So as long as I had a figure in my head that I needed to take,
Yeah.
but I can't fault John. So because John was that I was dealing with John, it weren't dealing with the head CEO, and it weren't dealing with the head coach. John was pretty
Yeah.
good. He said, how much you take home every month? So after tax and national insurance, you take home this much. There's 7 months left on the contract. Times that by 7, and that's what you can have. So the club saved tax and national insurance, and I got every penny I was entitled to. So it was probably the easiest payout that my agent ever did because
Yeah.
I had that relationship with John Kerry at the time.
Right. And that obviously stood firm, mate, because you've been in tandem a couple of times. But it must be nice that because I imagine outside of a player. it's quite hard to trust in a game like rugby league because the
Yeah,
money's not
so
great.
exactly. He's just so he knows what he gets from me, and I know I get. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like when I retired, obviously I rang John before I rang my missus and I rang my parents. I rang John to apologise because I retired 2 days before the 2017 World Cup.
yeah,
So I rang him, and obviously I stayed in contact with John because I ended up coaching a little bit and ended up in. And I used to ring John about things, and I wouldn't say like he was like a mate, but like more like a mentor. It's not a mentor.
mentor. Yeah,
Yeah, he was just someone I could ring up and bounce things off when I was coaching. And
yeah,
he's that kind of person. He's got a time of day for everybody, you know. So, like I said,
yeah.
and I feel like he was great with me before I retired, when I retired, and obviously when I come back, he was the guy who took me back.
Right. Are you all right talking about why you retired, mate? You're happy
Yeah,
with that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Sam,
So hit
mate,
us
yeah,
with it, mate. Talk us through what happened, the process, and how you got your head round it.
literally.
Yeah. Sorry,
I
mate. It's a bad pun, that, innit? Apologies.
no, it's all right. I so when I got that payout from Wakefield
Yeah.
in 2017, there was 6, 7 months left on the contract. The Super League deal fell through that where I was going, and I had to find a club for 6 months. Because for 2018, I'd signed at another Super League club, so I had 6 months left just to keep myself fit. And obviously a World Cup. Now people were telling me not to play, and I was like, I need to play because I'm going into a World Cup after it in Australia. So I played for Rochdale because I'd played a couple of games on loan there. I knew the people there, and they trained in Warrington. Anyway, 2 or 3 games in playing for Rochdale, I got knocked out on the pitch. Not a bad one. I played on, and then it was that second, that second like knock syndrome where I took a head knock, but I was okay. I never went down, and then like 20 minutes later, I was like, I'm not right here, and took myself off. And I went home that night, and I was like, I've been knocked out plenty of times, but I didn't know who my wife was. I didn't know who my kids were. So my wife ended up ringing my dad saying, "Listen, he's not right here." You know what I mean? Like, so I ended up going to hospital. I had a scan, and they found like a bleed on the brain. Now that sounds worse than it is. That's just a bruise. You know what I mean? Um, so obviously, so that was that, and then because of that, obviously, I had to do a return to play protocol. You know how it is, and
Yeah.
I couldn't pass that head test. I could not. I've never failed one in my life, and I could not pass one. So because I couldn't pass one, um, it was Wales. To be fair, they put me on to see a specialist in Manchester, and he did his own little scan. So he did his scan, and obviously you go off and come back. And when I come back, he pulled me in and he said, "Listen, I've got good news and bad news. Good news, there's nothing to worry about this bleed. It's gone. Bad news is I found this on your brain that you've been born with, and it's called an AVM. So I don't know the long three. You know what I mean? Basically, it's a
Yeah.
blood clot on your brain that are your blood vessels like in a ball on your brain. So when your arteries break off to veins, mine's like in a big ball. And what they're saying is if I took a direct blow on that, it could burst. If they burst, you die.
Yeah.
Simple as there's because there's no way of knowing it bursts, and then like within it bursting, it doesn't take long for you to die. It may never burst. It may never burst, but it also may burst.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so they basically retired me there and then on the spot, saying like I can't sign you off to go and play a contact sport. So that was that then, mate. That was literally going to going to see the specialist like 2 days before the World Cup to not playing again.
It's that drive home, like the one. Like, how do you put that and make sense to that?
And it didn't sink in. It didn't sink in, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. I was like, people were saying things like, you know what I mean? I got home, I rang John first, like I said, apologised, rang my parents, rang my wife, and we're just like, gotta go find a fucking job.
Yeah. No, that
Um,
well, yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it was just it didn't sink in at all, mate. Um,
Right.
I got the RFL were quite good, they had people ringing me, okay, state of mind. But because my personality, I took it in my stride, but it never sunk in. Um, it was like your whole identity had gone, but I didn't know it had gone. I was like, I was all right. until about 6 months later, and then I was, because the time I the time I retired, there was no rugby apart from the World Cup, and then it hit me when the Super League season started again, and I was a
And you
bit
should have
like,
been playing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, and then I was a bit like, um, but I had a really good support network around me. I got a job pretty quickly. My parents helped me, and people were telling me things like, you're lucky we found it. You could have gone to Australia in that World Cup and never come home. You know what I mean? Which is great. But then not my argument, but on the other side, you have to see things on your shoulders. And the other side was saying, I've had it since birth and it's never caused me any issues.
yeah,
So why should it cause me an issue now? It's not happened. I got a bleed on the brain, it never burst. So imagine the
yeah,
impact I needed on my brain for it to burst.
yeah,
So it's kind of like I was like in limbo. One minute I was like, yeah, I'm lucky. I've got two kids. You know what I mean? I'm
yeah,
healthy. It's getting sorted. And on the other side, I was like, but I've had it all my life, so why is it an issue? You know what I mean?
yeah,
It was kind of like catch 22. Um, but you know what I mean? I was all right, but I was out for 3 or 4 years, wasn't I? And I was all right. I ended up having treatment on it, which was um, you could have basically open brain surgery where they cut it out, but you have to be awake. And I was like,
right.
fucking, that's not happening, mate. I'm not being
Yeah, yeah,
awake while someone's messing with my brain. Do you know what I mean? I'm not having that.
yeah,
Or basically
mm,
chemo/radiotherapy. The downside of that was it takes 2 years to work. So I went for that one. I went for that going, could basically just shrinks it. Do you know what I mean? So you have this
mm,
chemotherapy on this shot and it just shrinks it. And I went for that one because I weren't having open brain surgery.
yeah,
Um, and so I had that. But then 12 months after having that, I was like, I'm missing playing here now. And I was coaching Blackbrook at the time. And I was like,
yeah,
should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, go and play.
yeah,
And I ended up playing under Ant Walker, not Anthony Walker.
right.
I signed on for Blackbrook as Ant Walker.
Yeah,
And
right.
every time we were short, I come on the pitch and played.
Yeah. 17 is
um,
another.
yeah, that's literally it.
Yeah,
I played a little bit. Um, and then I was like, nah, I won't have another crack at it.
yeah,
Um, but so what happened is in that 2 years' time, my brain was classed as normal. So once this thing happened, I had to have another scan, and my brain was classed as normal.
bloody
So,
hell, you bragger.
well, look, knowing me, you probably think it's never normal. Um, so what happened was I was coaching Wales under 19s at the time,
Okay.
and we played against the first team, but we were short. And I joined in playing for 19s, taking the mick. And I said to John, because obviously John was the coach, hey, John, I can play next year, I can play again next year. And he collared me after it and went, seriously, can you play again? And I said, yeah, next year after this scan. He went, come training at Bradford pre-season in November. And that's how it happened, mate. I went back to Bradford
A jovial, like, comment. Or
I went,
semi-jovial. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
so I went back there and then COVID it. So I missed another year. But yeah,
yeah.
that 4 years, mate. Yeah, it was like all over the place, but then ended up coming back.
Right. Did the coaching, like, tickle the itch for you, mate?
I thought it would have done, but there's nothing like I,
There's
I'm.
not.
I had a couple of months off.
Yeah.
I had a couple of months off, and because I was at Rochdale at the time, I wanted to stay involved with. I miss my personality is I need to be around the lads. I like the cracker.
Yeah.
I like the banter and that. So I ended up getting a bit of a coaching gig at Rochdale. Alan Kilshaw was the coach, who's obviously coach at Swinton now.
Yeah.
And there was another lad called Lee Westwood who's at Warrington, like head of youth at War, head of like scholarship at Warrington. They were the coaches, and I was like the in between. I took the odd warm up, put the cones out, but I was like, if the lads had any issues, they kind of spoke to me because I played with them a bit, and I enjoyed that. Um, I enjoyed that, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? It's not the same as playing.
Oh, no, it's not me and all that. I know. And I didn't play at your level, and it's still not the same at amateur, never mind. It's semi-pro
No.
and pro. So and I know I mentioned it off camera, mate, and you've helped lads find clubs
Yeah,
inadvertently
yeah.
through contacts you've made, and that is that something you'd potentially look at going into? Because you do have a good rapport with people in good clubs with
A
good
few
lads
lads
that
have said, a few lads have said to me, "You'd be an all right agent. Yeah, you should be an agent."
yeah, yeah,
But it was just because I'm quite involved in the community game.
right,
I used to coach Blackbrook Open Age,
yeah,
and now I coach Blackbrook under 16s. I was coaching the Open Age, and obviously I was doing that at Rochdale, and we were
yeah,
just short on players. And I was like, "There's a couple of lads I think who could do a job." You know what I mean? Who've been let go, and I mean, there's lads everywhere. Like you said, he slipped the net, and
yeah,
there was two or three at Blackbrook I thought about, and I just seen something in Dion where even if he was playing at Blackbrook, we play on a Saturday. On a Sunday, mate, he was in DW doing a recovery session. Now, after a game, he wasn't like you know yourself playing amateur, you play, but you want 10 pints after the game, don't you? But
you're on the piss, eh? Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah,
he wanted to. He was just like a professional, but playing at Blackbrook. And I just said
yeah,
to Alan Kilshaw, I said, listen, there's a lad there, centre winger at Blackbrook, who might be worth just coming. We've got no money, so I mean, he'll come for free. He won't miss a training session, and if he plays 5 games, he's covered you, hasn't he? And
yeah,
obviously, you had Dion on. His story's unreal. But I just seen
yeah.
something in Dion and thought I'll take him. And there's lads now at my Blackbrook team. I've got like 8 or 9 on scholarships, but there's 4 or 5 there who I think should have a
Yeah, good
crack
enough.
somewhere. And
Yeah,
I've spoke to people now, and I speak to people like saying, listen, these lads are worth a watch. You know what I mean? So I just enjoy it. I
yeah.
just think I'm not saying I've got a talent for the art and an eye for talent because I've not.
I
There's
think you'd have a
you,
bit, mate. To
I
be
just look.
honest with you,
I couldn't. I don't think I could go over the field and say, "Oh, take him." I like knowing the person. Do you know what I mean? So like, Dion was
yeah,
coachable. He'd
yeah.
listen. His attitude was right, and that's probably bigger than pure talent.
Oh, it is.
Do you
It's
know
a
what I mean?
great foundation, isn't it?
You know what I mean? You can have a lad there who's like, I've got a lad here at Blackbrook. He's probably the most naturally gifted player you've probably ever seen, but his attitude is all over the place. And it's like, if you can get your
Yeah,
right attitude, you'll go on to do good stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's what I feel like I can kind of pick the attitude rather than the player. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Because I'll be honest, mate. I think 9 out of 10 attitudes you can't really change, but 9 out of 10
Exactly.
of abilities you can, can't you?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
you can, like you
yeah,
say, if you've got someone who wants to work and wants to learn, you can coach the rest, can't you?
yeah. You can, mate. You can. So, joking aside, mate, and I know we laughed about it about the agent and like maybe not even like a first grade coach or scout, but definitely youth development seems down your path.
Yeah,
Is
I,
it something
I,
you'd look at?
I'd love it if listen now, mate. I'd love it if Widnes didn't create an academy or something. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like, especially because I'm coaching at that age group as well, it's
yeah,
something I'd love to do. But also, like you say, you got that. But then I also, with my history and my background, I also like the idea of a player welfare officer as well.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know where when I finish. I'm not even thinking about finishing, but I don't know what probably would. I'll have to. I want to stay in the game for as long as I can, if not for like forever. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'd want to be
In
a
what
head coach.
capacity?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think I'd want to be a head coach. I like the idea of an assistant or a youth coach or something like that. But yeah, I mean that we just see, don't we?
yeah. No, that's it, mate. Yeah. And do you know when you are coaching lads and that, mate, and lads like so most of your team are on paper signed, and some of
Yeah.
your lads aren't. What's the cohesion like there? How do you manage that?
It's hard. It's hard because the way I describe it, I've got 21 kids there under 16s at Blackbrook, and it's an hard age group
Yeah,
because you've got 8, 9, 10 who are on scholarships who want to be rugby players. You've got 4 or 5 who want to be on scholarship and drive to and want to be them. And you've got 4 or 5 who are just playing like because the parents tell them to, or because they like having a crack with lads. And it's hard to incorporate them all. Now, I'm not this kind of person who goes, it's my way or no way, and we're doing this and we've regimented. I'm kind of like, I want you to enjoy being here, but you might as well be here for a reason. And it is hard to try and get something. So say you've got a kid who's really, really good and a kid who's pretty poor. It's hard to get a session that adapts to both. Um, but I'm lucky because my assistant coach at Blackbrook is James Roby. So you think that, like, to be honest, 9 times out of 10, I say, like, he kind of James is great for the lads to look up to. Do you know what I mean? So um, it kind of is pretty easier for me because I've got a good fallback.
Yeah, not many can fall on that, like you said, can they? But I agree, mate. Like the coaching's great, but it doesn't sort that itch out of pulling it
Yeah.
on and doing it proper, does it? Playing at the end of the
Yeah.
day, mate. Yeah. So what
No.
proof did John need at Bradford to get you to sign the dotted line, or was it just come and show me what you can do again?
So I did a pre-season after
Yeah,
COVID, effectively after COVID.
yeah,
Um, was it before? No, sorry, mate, it was before. I did a pre-season, and the RFL needed to see a scan with nothing on the brain. Um, so I did it all pre-season, and Bradford ended up paying for this scan because
right, okay,
if I was waiting for the NHS, I probably would have still been waiting now.
right,
So Bradford paid for this scan, and it was gone. It was clear.
yeah,
Um, so I got the green light then to play. I had to sign a waiver to basically say, if anything happens to that point of my brain, it's on me, not the rugby league. And I still have to sign that now. I've still got that signed now, like even I'm at witness. I don't know if it's insurance purposes or what, even though it's classed as normal, but I still have to sign. Oh, I don't have to sign it again, but it's still on paper.
yeah,
So I did pre-season. Obviously, COVID happened, and then I went in the following year when COVID gone as a trialist. Even though I was there the year before, I just
yeah,
went through as a trialist because I went back playing, and I was like, if I'm shit, I'm shit. Simple as that.
yeah,
4 years, you can train all you want, but there's nothing like a game. 4 years out is a long time. So I was like, I'll have a crack at pre-season. I'll play some games. If I'm rubbish, I'll hold my hands up and go, I tried. I'll carry on playing at Blackbrook.
yeah.
If I'm half decent, let's go and see if I can get in that World Cup squad for 2022. So I played pre-season friendlies, and then before the season had signed, I played pretty decent in the pre-season friendlies, and so I signed straight away, really, then at Bradford.
Did you feel good as well, mate? Nice to be back and sore
Yeah,
on a
but
Sunday.
the game, like I said before, I was like 107 kilograms when I retired. I come back at I went to pre-season at 136 kilograms.
Right.
Um, and then I was playing at like 120. So my whole game is different. You know what I mean? Like I used to play minutes and do the donkey work, and I went from that to just being a ball carrier, and you know what I mean, getting spelled and getting spotted. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I had to adapt, and the game was so much faster than when I finished playing.
yeah,
I don't know if that's because I'm not as fit and I'm a lot bigger, or the six again reels and stuff like that are quicker, aren't they?
yeah,
But it was just good to play again properly. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I can
It
play at
was.
Blackbrook all I
Yeah,
wanted, but it it was like playing school rugby again, playing at Blackbrook. And that's nothing against the community standard. That was just how it felt. But
yeah,
going back to Bradford, you know what I mean? And it would work for me going to Bradford because they were a big club, like a big club, as in like they're still professional off the field as well. You had to do
yeah,
gym, you had to do certain things. Like there's some clubs in championship stuff like that, which are just like Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, but like you're amateur.
yeah,
But Bradford was still like a professional club, which works for me because if I go to one of these clubs, if I signed at Rochdale at the time, I probably
yeah.
wouldn't have still been playing now. I needed that professional environment.
And someone that demanded it from you.
Yeah, and obviously
Yeah,
John knew how to get the best out of me, and he could tell me straight as well. I said to you, like, I prefer someone who says,
yeah,
listen, you need to do this or you're not playing. He knows that's how he gets the best out of me. So, I mean, it
right.
worked.
Yeah. How did you enjoy it there, mate?
I loved it. I can't fault that club, me. I
Yeah,
loved it. It
yeah,
just, obviously, John left in what, 2022? Did he leave 2022? No,
yeah,
23. John left. No, 2022, John left. And then as soon as he signed at Widnes, I rang John and said, listen, John, it's on my doorstep. Like, I don't mean I loved it at Bradford, but it was taking an hour and a half. I had to leave work early, and Widnes takes me 7 minutes to get to. Do you know what I mean? It just made
Yeah.
sense, and I wanted to play for John. I had nothing against Mark Dunning and stuff like that, the coach at Bradford. I can't fault Bradford as a club. They're great with my kids and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
just the way the way my work was and my family life, witness work, especially when John went there, witness work for me.
It is about quality life off the field, mate, as well, isn't it? Happy life at all is a happy playing
Yeah,
on the field, isn't it?
that's it, mate.
Or
Yeah,
on the
so
plastic, as we know.
yeah, love you. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I went through a bit of a difficult time. Ended up getting divorced from my wife, uh, fighting for 50-50 co-parenting with my kids, and being at Bradford didn't help. Do you know,
Yeah.
like I, if I'm a witness, my parents can mind the kids for an hour or 2 hours while I'm training. You know, it didn't matter what days it is
Yeah.
training's on. It's round the corner. Why Bradford was
Yeah.
like half a day out. You know, going to training, coming home was half a day. So
Yeah.
witness just worked for me, and and I enjoy it there. So
Yeah. So, to be honest, mate, the last few years you've been through it, then, aren't you? I'm not going to go into
no, yeah,
your
yeah,
own
yeah,
life, but it plays like a massive role, mate, doesn't it? Like, not only was you going through that, but when there's kids involved, I imagine it's 1,000 times more magnified, and it's that
yeah,
stage where it's not just about you anymore, isn't it, mate? It's about making a new home and for them,
yeah. I
and
had to
it can't have
like,
been easy, mate.
do you know what I mean? Like, I love it. Like I said, I can't make look. I can't fault Bradford one bit, but when I split up with the ex-wife, like I said, moved house, got the kids. I ended up changing my jobs as well. I had to change a job to fit around my parenting and
Yeah,
stuff like that. Um, yeah, so it was tough, but everything of this last 12, 18 months, everything happened at the same time, and I got a new job, signed for Widnes, and it just helps family life. You know what I mean? Like you say, it helps. My kids love it because my kid, my parents don't really watch me play rugby anymore. They've done it all their life. They kind of
yeah, yeah,
they've got their own life, and they go away for the weekends and stuff like that. So being at Bradford, my lads never really watched me.
yeah,
Well, they watched me the odd game, if mum and dad weren't doing anything. But being at Widnes, like they don't miss a game because my oldest can look after the youngest and things like that. So and they love it. And I don't. I say I'm 32 now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even thinking about retiring, but
yeah,
I kind of like the idea of them watching me play again. So I
yeah.
love it. Like I like it when they come watching and stuff.
Oh, but it's class, mate. No, I like that. I like that. So, how have you found it with this, mate? And what's your personal goals this year?
Well, I said it was nice transition. It was nice coming to Widnes. I knew a lot of the lads. I played amateur with Danny Craven at Blackbrook. I knew a lot of the lads from. There's quite a few Blackbrook lads. There's quite a few ex Saints lads at the Widnes at the time. It was a nice. I slotted straight in. You know what I mean? So coming to Widnes, it wasn't like starting fresh somewhere new. I knew probably 10, 11 lads. Um, so that was great. Um, And then this year is totally different again, isn't it? This year, a new coach who I knew Alan before he come here because when I was coaching Wales, he was coaching England, and we used to play against each other, but as coaches. Um,
Yeah,
so I knew Alan, but I've never been coached by him. And you know what I mean? So I've come in this year, and I'm not saying you can get complacent, but I had John Kay since 2014. You know what I mean? 2024 now, I did need a change. So with
yeah,
Alan coming in, it's probably good for me to a new coach where John, I could get, not that I did, but I kind of could get complacent under John. So I needed a new coach to come in and test me and tell me different things that he wants from me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I've come in and done that, and it has been good. I've enjoyed it. Training's been totally different to what other pre-seasons have been like. And like we played yesterday, didn't we? So it was first
Yeah.
game yesterday, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It's different style of rugby to what I'm used to playing with. Like I'm not saying John's rugby was boring, but it was very structured. Why Alan's quite into us playing a little bit in the middle and stuff like that. So it was nice.
And do you get off the nudie run on a friendly, mate, or does it not count?
No, they don't count. They don't count. But I'm quite lucky that touch wood, I've never had to do one.
Right, mate. And so with things being in happier places and you're well and truly back trotting the egg in now, mate, aren't you? Pardon the pun again, but what does the future ambition look like individually and collectively for you?
Individually, mate, I want to stay here now. I'm at Widnes. It works for my family life. It works with saying I I'm in contract year now, so I need a good year. And I wanna play for as long as I can. So short term, I want to cement myself in the squad. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like we've got three middles coming on loan. We've got some good middles coming from other clubs. It's not a guaranteed. So I need to cement myself in that squad for Widnes. And then hopefully sort my next couple of years out. Long term, like I said, in an ideal world, mate, I'd finish playing here and walk into like a youth thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, I want to keep playing for Wales. Now, all this World Cup's a palaver saying they're only letting 10 teams into a World Cup and things like that. You know, the next World Cup's supposed to be in like South Pacific Islands, and if Wales could get there, I'd like to do that in 2026. Which is only 2 years off. But and how it is, it probably looks like Wales. It basically just want like a South Sea Island in England World Cup.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I did a World Cup in Wales, missed out on an Australia one, and did a World Cup in England. I want a World Cup abroad. Do you know what I
I
mean?
want to travel. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I want. Obviously, we can try and qualify, but it means you're having to play France, and unless you know what I mean, like France are going to be good.
Yeah.
But so I want to stay at Widnes for as long as I can, do as best as I can for Widnes. And I want to keep playing for Wales for as long as I can. Like I said, I'm 32, but when it comes to negotiating contracts, mate, I say I'm 28 because I've had 4 years out the game.
Well, you're basically right though, isn't it, mate? I know, like physically, your body it has been through, but it's not been through the contact, has it?
Yeah. So I say
So,
I'm 28,
yeah,
rugby wise, like joking
yeah,
aside, like joking. I said
yeah, yeah,
it's that jokingly serious. Like when I said to John, you know, I can still keep going.
yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like so. I don't be surprised if I'm still knocking around at 36, 37. You know what I mean? Like
No, I
I've
love it, mate. Play as long as you can, innit? It's
because
as long
when
as you still enjoy it.
I've got a lot of mates, like I'm really close with Reece Evans and he's retired. And I'm really close with Reece. And I said, like, when he was at Bradford, he's like, listen, I'm retiring, I'm done now. I was saying to him, listen, mate, like, you know what I mean? You have to be ready to retire because once you're retired, it's horrible after 12 months. It's great for 12 months. You can go on holiday whenever you want and that, and you can do whatever you want. You can drink on a Saturday night and make plans. But once that wears off, you miss it. And I think you have to be completely ready to retire. Now, Reece isn't missing it one bit, but
Yeah.
I said, but like people say to me, "Oh, I'm finishing this year. I've got 1 year left, 2 years left. Just be careful, because once you're out, it's
Well, that's
horrible."
it. Yeah, it is. I had Reece on, mate, and he's very content with it, and
Yeah,
he's in a
he
good
knew, he
place,
was
and he's
ready.
kicking on. Yeah.
Yeah, he was ready. Yeah,
Right, mate. That time in the chat when I asked you a few daft questions. So, any pre-match superstitions?
none. None. Oh no, unless you can count eating 3 hours before kickoff. Like
Right. And is it the same stuff or
no, no.
no?
As
Yeah.
we kick off at 3 o'clock, I'll have something at 12, and that's it.
Right.
I know it sounds impossible for me, but I like to feel light for kickoff. Do you know what I mean? Like I if I feel sluggish, I'd play sluggish. And I might always look sluggish, but if I feel
Mate, I'm sluggish man alive. I can't say nothing.
but if I feel like if I eat after 12 o'clock, after 3 hours before, I can
Yeah.
feel it. And you know, if you burp and you can taste it, awful. So I won't eat after 3 hours before kickoff. That's the only
That's
one. But I wouldn't
yeah.
say that's a superstition. I'd just say that's like,
The way it is. Yeah.
yeah.
And he doesn't help you zooming in, mate, when you're holding a bag and that, does he?
You're an idiot, innit? And
Right.
doesn't
So
help that I never had a kit fit try on, so they just guessed the kit size and it's like a tent. I think I've got
a
Chemix top
small
on.
or extra small. Yeah.
Mine's like a 4XL tent.
Right, mate. So this next word is different for everybody, definition wise, but it's the toughest player you played with and against.
Uh, I've played against some tough uns. Like toughest I've played against, like as a middle. Obviously, I think he's made me look stupid. Adrian Morley's made me look stupid. I,
Well, he
I,
done it to a lot, then he mate.
I remember I subbed on the same time as him at Saints v. He was at Salford at the time. He'd done me at Warrington a few times, but I subbed on the same time as him, and he took a carry and I hit him pretty well, and it's like he remembered it. And when my first carry, he knocked me out line out with that big forearm guard. So I was probably on the pitch a minute and a half. So he was pretty tough to play against, and Gaz Ellis. When you hit him, it was like he'd hit you. So like I tackled him, and it's like my whole body went numb.
Yeah.
So
Nah, what a player he was.
yeah. And that Mark Minicello was the same, mate. They were just like you hit him, and it was like they were tackling you.
Yeah.
So they're probably like as a middle, like they were toughest I played against. Toughest I played with, um, as like James Roby. You know what I mean? James Roby, he could do
Yeah.
70s, 80 tackles a game and still look fresh.
Yeah.
So he's tough that way. And then there's like Johnny Lomax who can go through the walls, having his head split open and stuff like that, and won't go off the pitch.
Yeah.
Um, Physically wise, as like an enforcer, as like a middle. Toughest I've probably played with that way. Anthony England. Um, he was just an angry, like he's not a horrible man at all off the pitch, but he's an angry man to play with. Like he does everything with
Yeah.
intensity to hurt people, not in a nasty
Right.
way. Like he runs like he wants to hurt you.
Yeah.
He tackles like he wants to hurt you. Um,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I've played with big Alex Walmsley, but that was before he was what he is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like and Willie
Yeah.
Manu's another one who was a bit of a freak of nature, where he was an angry man as well. He was pretty tough as well.
Right. Fair enough, mate. Some good players there. But favourite away ground to play at?
Warrington.
Yeah.
Being a Warrington fan as a kid, and all my family are Warrington fans. I like playing there because I used to always think like make some schooler in the crowd, you know, like
Yeah.
families in the crowd and stuff like that. Yeah, Warrington.
Right, mate. And if you could go back and tell a younger you something, what would it be?
Diet.
Stop that.
No, do you know what, mate? Like I was always the first to leave training. I don't mind getting in early, but I took full time for granted. So
Yeah.
like I remember saying this to some of the academy coaches at Saints. I used to go to training, train, and go home. And then you'd get the lads like Alex Walmsley who would stay and do extra gym because they knew what it was like training at 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'd only ever trained in the day, and it was a job, and it was just like progression, wasn't it? So for me, it was like, listen, you still got to, even though you're full time, you still got to work at it, because it can quickly go away from you.
Well, I like that. Yeah, you've just potentially took it for granted a little bit, like you said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
a bit different when I went to Wakefield because I was in a car share, but
yeah,
work harder. Don't think because you've
yeah,
got a good CV and a good finger, you know what I mean? Work harder.
yeah. So if you had a few beers, mate, you're out with the lads, the microphone ends up in your hand. What are you giving us on the karaoke?
Depends if I'm trying to. I like Kings of Leon Sex on Fire to get the crowd
Yeah,
going, or MVK Iglesias Hero.
yeah,
Yeah, that's when I sing to the
brilliant,
missus.
mate. What a guy. So if you're willing to, mate, a 1 to 13 that you've played with so far,
It's hard
play
this
yourself six
because,
if you want.
well, I have played halfback before. Uh, Fullback Paul Wellens.
Yeah.
It's probably going to end up just being like a Saints team this, but no, I'll go fullback Paul Wellens, one wing Tommy Makinson, other wing Tom Johnson, centres. Oh, I like Bill Tupou when I played with him at Wake. He was good. Um, Other centre, Percy. Um, Halfbacks, Tim Smith.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I want to say Johnny Lomax, but I loved playing with Danny Brough, so I'll probably go Danny Brough. Well, that's the tough one. Um, Front row, Anthony England, Volby at 9. Over middle,
What do you want from your nine? And do you want like an early ball, mate? Be
yeah,
allowed to do what you want with the ball. Yeah.
yeah. That's what I have off Foz. Foz just give me off the floor, mate. Over middle, Tony Pulatua. Second row was Matty Ashurst by a mile, probably one of the best I've ever played with. I think
If
if he
anyone's
didn't play
played
for,
with him, mate, he gets in the teeth. If I
if
have
he
lads on, yeah,
if he wasn't playing for Wakefield, he'd have played for England all his career.
yeah.
I think he's got overlooked because he plays for Wakefield.
And because he does that every week, though, it's as
Yeah,
if people want him to produce a match-winning moment, but he does exactly what he's meant to do very well every week, doesn't he?
yeah. Matty Ashurst, he's probably the most underrated player in Super League. I know he's in Championship
Yeah,
now, but he is
yeah.
uh, so good. Other second rower, Soliola, and loose forward. Hmm, have to be another middle in it because there's
Is that how you see a loose now, mate? What do you want your loose as a hybrid or a carrier?
for me a carrier because I can get a breather.
Yeah.
So like well, we've got Nick Gregson now who's coming towards and he likes being a hybrid. And I said to him yesterday, I said, listen, mate, you're gonna have to carry it ball.
Yeah.
I say if you go kick off, it goes prop, like let's say they kick to me, I'll take first, over middle take second, he needs to take third, unless you go short side.
Yeah, to a second rower or something. Yeah.
Loose forward, I tell you I'll go for loose forward, Tyson Frizzell, played with him at Wales.